Greetings and welcome to the Heal and Restore podcast, where we are dedicated to helping couples and individuals strengthen their relationships through healing, growth, and most importantly, honest conversation. We dive into topics like communication, forgiveness, intimacy, family, and emotional connection because healthy love starts with a healed heart. Tune in each week and take the next step toward restoring what matters most.
Beautiful. I love this topic. So welcome to the Heal and Restore podcast. We are your host, Randy and
That's
Cathy
me.
Boyd. And
Am I the host with the most? Because you're the hostess with the mostest.
Always the hostess
Okay.
with the mostest, honey.
Oh,
Always.
the hostess with the mostest. You
Yeah.
didn't say the host with the most.
No, you're the hostess with the mostest.
No, I'm not the hostess. You're the host.
Oh, okay.
Because you're the she, I'm the he.
Okay, if that's what you want to look at it. You got me all confused, but I'm going to move forward here.
Okay, move forward.
Anyways, we're glad you're here. Thank you for joining us. Today we're going to tackle a vital topic. It's something that seems to come up a lot with our clients,
A lot.
and it's leadership in your home. Whether you're single, you're married, you're raising kids, someone's always leading, and the leadership shapes the atmosphere. It brings value to your home, and it helps leave that legacy for your family. And so we're going to just kind of dive into that. We've got a couple little areas that we want to kind of hone in on.
Just real quick with leadership. We're talking about leadership in the home, but a caveat to that is that leadership in your home, if you're a leader, you're a leader. It should be carried through in everything that you do.
Yeah,
right?
It can be your work environment.
Right,
You can
exactly.
it can be not just your home, but your work environment. It can be a church environment.
Your sports team.
Your teams, yeah, that's great.
Like we're focusing on family and marriage, so this is specifically because we get this question asked a lot.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about the first category we want to jump into is what is leadership in the home. So, Randy, why don't you define some of the leadership titles that kind of cover that
Beyond
question?
Titles, right? There is no titles in leadership. It's mostly about influence, and no matter who's watching, right? Adult kids and grandkids, right? All that is who we're leading, right? It's not. It's we do it by our influence and our actions, right? Like for example, the way I lead my family with my wife, right? I lead her by showing her kindness and love. I'm not her commandant. I'm not her ultimate authority. She's my wife. She's my best friend. She's my partner.
Yeah, that's
right.
Good.
So I love her like Christ,
yeah.
And that's how I lead with her. Now I didn't always do that really well, and then
I think a lot of that has to do with the examples too. And we've got to remember sometimes we don't always have healthy examples.
And we're going to talk about that a little bit too. And then, with my children growing up, but even more importantly, right, because our children watch Cathy and I fight to save our marriage and for me to get recovered, right? So we're constantly, by our actions, not our words, our actions are very important. We are constantly, I'm constantly showing my children what it's like to be a healthy adult, right? And then after that, I got my grandchildren, right?
Sure.
None of my grandchildren have seen me drink, right?
No.
And so it's all about showing them a consistent love, unconditional love, right? Forgiveness, right? And being extremely honest, loyal, and hardworking.
Yeah. I think the one thing that really stands out to me in this, defining it is, what are your daily choices? What choices are you going to... You have to be intentional.
Yes.
You have to really think about what you want others to see in your day.
Yes.
And, so much of what we have in our life is from learned behavior. So it's not just inside your home. You talked about, teams, your sports teams, your work environment, your church environment. Right. You have to be intentional in all those categories as well.
Exactly. And, again, we're only human beings. We are going to make mistakes, but that's another really good part of leadership is when we do make mistakes.
We get to correct it.
We get to own up to it.
Yeah, that's good. And, the other thing I think that's really important to understand is that leadership is not about control. It's really about being of service, guiding somebody, whether they're older than you, younger than you. And the more important thing is creating safety, creating a safe space so somebody wants to follow you.
So they're not afraid to talk to us, right? And in our marriage, and Cathy can testify this, my job my number one job is, of course, loving her unconditionally, but also it's my responsibility to make sure that Cathy feels safe with me.
Yeah.
Knowing that I'm going to protect her, I'm going to stand up, I'm going to fight for her.
Right.
I mean, I would take a bullet for her. I don't, my job is to make sure that Cathy's safe and she feels safe. Yeah. And I know that she does. She's told me as much.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Absolutely. I think maybe there was a period of time early on in in our before recovery, right, definitely, where there might have been that right question. But I think the one thing that we have to remember too in leading the home is sometimes the other person, like the husband is typically, or the male is typically the leader of the home, but sometimes we have to learn and we have to step up and lead differently in our marriage. For example, we talked about this before we started recording. I couldn't think of this, but it's true, is when Randy was sick in the hospital, I had the responsibility to lead our home at that time. Right. And at that time, our kids were grown, but I still had the responsibilities of making sure that the house was kept, that the dogs were fed, the bills were paid, things of that nature. And it's similar like when you started your recovery journey. Right, it was kind of that same scenario where I felt, yes, there's certain things that Randy would do that would make him the leader of our home. But when that person is incapable of doing that because of an illness or an injury, or in this case, working on his recovery journey, I did have to step up to become that leader in the home. And that's okay.
And Cathy's always worked, so she's doing that all while working. Yeah. And also, I didn't put pressure on her to do that.
No, you almost just like it becomes instinct because you know you need to keep your house standing. Right. So you've got to do it. And you just step in and do it.
It's not always an easy thing.
No.
I mean, I remember when they were going to move me up to LA in the hospital, you really struggled with that.
I did.
But then again, I said, Cathy, just take the leave of absence. Yeah. I was there for her. I supported her.
Yeah, we had to make a decision then.
Right, exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about like the key traits of a healthy home leader. Right. Because there's a lot of misconceptions, but there's also some misconceptions that are good and some misconceptions that are not so good when we think of a leadership in a home. But I think one of the biggest one, you kind of touched on it, is humility.
Yes.
Whether you're the man leading the home or if you're a single mom leading the home, we have to be willing to say, oh, I didn't do that very well, and I'm sorry. We have to admit our mistakes, because that is a sign of a strong leader, when we can humble ourselves to say, I was wrong.
Yes, and the really important part, I mean, for Cathy and I to do that with each other, but what's even more important when we're raising children, right, is we want our children to see that, hey, it's okay if you trip, you made a mistake. It's okay, and it's okay to say, hey, I goofed up. I know I did.
Absolutely.
Right, and we have to be able to allow our children, right, to own up and not, I want to say it like this, not be afraid of the consequences when they do own up to a mistake they made and apologize to it.
Yeah, it's just back to that leading by example.
Everything is leading by example as a leader in the home.
Yeah, and I think consistency, that is key. Keeping your word and showing up. Yes. If you say that you're going to do something, you follow through with it. If you're unsure if you're going to be able to do it, don't say anything.
That's a very, very good point in personal experience. Yeah. My stepfather was always making these empty promises that he was going to do. And it came to the point to where I became the laughing stock of my neighborhood. They just laughed when I said something. So it was always like, we're going to do this, but it never came through. Right. So it was an extreme disappointment. And the one thing that I mentioned to Cathy early on, we're never going to tell our kids we're going to do something.
Right.
For
that very reason.
For that very reason.
Yeah.
Look, we can tell them, especially as it gets closer, but also if something comes up and we have to change our plans, that was the difference from when I was a kid. I was just ignored. If something comes up, it's like, oh man, I told you guys we were going to do this weekend.
That's the humility.
That's humility, right? And our plans, we wanted to do this, but something came up and I have to take care of it. I can't get out of it. but we're going to make it up, and if we can
We'll make it happen.
We're going to make it happen.
Yeah.
I promise you that.
And I think with that being said too, I think what's really important in that is the fact that, remember, we're leading by example in that mindset. And so if you are making promises to your kids and then you don't follow through, or you don't have that secondary, apology, your kids are going to start doubting you, and then they're going to start not believing you, and then they're going to start not wanting to follow you.
Right. And Cathy and I stress this all the time with our clients. As parents, we are their number one teacher, whether you realize it or not.
True.
They're watching everything you do, and they're gonna mimic it, and they'll start young, right? And it just, everything's learned behavior, and who they learning it from.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of learning and following and leading by example, another key trait, which is very difficult to do, is your emotional regulation.
Right.
As leaders of the home, it's important that we stay calm under stress.
Yes.
Not always easy, but it is absolutely necessary. Because if we can remain calm in our leadership role, we're teaching our children, or we're teaching those around us, that they too can remain calm. Remember, it's leading by example. They're going to learn exactly what they see.
Right. And on this, I'm going to touch on this because it's part of the reason a lot of people cannot stay calm. Mm-hmm. Because they've lost their voice somewhere along their childhood. Yeah. And so when somebody disagrees with them, a spouse, right? Let's just go to the spouses right now. Disagrees with them, right? They're going to not be able to stay calm because it's a trigger. Oh, my spouse disagrees. See, just like growing up,
right?
Nobody listens to me. Nobody cares about how I feel, right? So again, we have to recognize where's this trigger coming from, and that's going to reflect back to, we have to allow our children as a leader to have their voice,
to let them
express their feelings.
It. Yeah. Right. And I'll just say that this is going to sound kind of weird maybe, but there's nothing more attractive than, for me, there's nothing more attractive than a man who can stay calm under stress.
And I've had to work hard to do that.
It's the stress creates a whole lot more but when a man is, for me, a man can regulate his emotions. That is very attractive to me. Because I'm used to seeing the opposite.
The opposite, right? But see, and I will say this in relationship, that's going to take some work.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's because everything's learned behavior, right? And so this is where a good mentor or coach like you and I come into play to help you realize it's like when we're in a relationship and our partner doesn't agree with it, we can't take it personally. It's not about us, right? So both partners, there's a lot of work to do on this situation.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Another area that I love on a key trait of a healthy home leader is vision. Leading with purpose and with shared goals.
Right.
A lot of us have never done this, but what we have discovered and wish we would have done is to sit down early in the relationship and have that conversation. And then throughout your relationship, your goals are going to change. So you're going to want to sit down periodically throughout your relationship so that you can make decisions together as equals, and so that you look at Christ as the ultimate head of your home when you're doing that.
So I want to reframe that just a little bit, right? Just a little bit. Goals. Okay. You and I did talk a lot about what we wanted.
We had vision.
We the vision, right?
It's more vision than anything.
Exactly. Yeah, we want to raise a family. We want to buy a house. There's a lot of things we both wanted to do.
Do you remember the conversation that we had when we thought that there was going to be a time where we were just going to live on your income alone, and my income would be our play money? That didn't happen.
Yeah, that's when we were dating, right?
Yeah.
But
hey, we had that conversation that we had a good vision.
So, those common type vision and that goal is healthy to have. But what's more important that Cathy is really stressing here is that we need to sit down, and Cathy and I never did this, right?
Yeah.
You need to sit down with your to-be spouse or partner and discuss.
Or if you're married, you can still do it.
You can still do it, exactly. It's never too late to do anything, right? You need to discuss what your expectations are of the marriage, of each other, of yourself. and what needs you have for yourself and of your partner in the relationship.
Because that's part of leading in a healthy home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And all those expectations, needs, and even goals are going to change over time, right? Because we're
evolving as
exactly,
people.
yeah. We're aging, we're revolving, things change,
Not
right?
revolving, but evolving.
Evolving, right.
You're so funny.
Yeah, we're evolving.
We're evolving.
Yeah, kind of like the monkeys
that
evolved into
kind
me.
of the picture I had in mind when you said that. So this other area that I love is the servant-hearted person. And I feel like I have a heart to serve.
Oh, yeah,
but
you do.
Again, we've talked about we're leading by example. We're not demanding. But in some areas, tasks have to be shared equally between the two parties and the two adults in the house. I'll put it that way. Even though in the ultimate end of all of this, the husband carries that greater responsibility in the leadership. Right. And I know you talk about Ephesians 5:21-25 all the time. This is something that's near and dear to your heart, something that we share with our clients multiple times. Why don't you read what that is and then give us your input on that, because I love it.
So starting at 21, you could actually go through the whole end of that chapter, but 21 says, submitting to one another out of the reverence of God. So we're submitting to one another. You and I, out of respect for God.
Absolutely.
Okay. Wives, submit to your own husbands as to the Lord. This is where my caveat comes into play. If you switch down to 5:25, husbands, love your wives just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for her. I feel, and it's very important, and Cathy can relate to this, that in order for my wife to submit to me as unto the Lord, and by the way, gentlemen, submit does not mean she does everything you say when you say. It means it's a Greek word, hupotasso. You walk side by side, not front, not behind, side by side, under one purpose for God, right? So, first thing, I have to love my wife as Christ loved the church if I want her to follow me and be submissive to me.
Right.
So to speak, for the submissiveness. And Christ gave himself for her. Christ died for the church. So what are we going to die to on a daily basis, gentlemen, for our spouse, ourself? Yeah. Not every day. I mean, but there's certainly times where it's like you have to die to self in order to help your wife make it through a situation.
Right.
Okay.
And I think that's key. I know it has shifted our marriage. We didn't always have this verse in our hearts and in our spirit, but it definitely has shifted our marriage. And I want to look up to you as the leader of my home, of our home. You have learned to make it easy for me to do that because of this verse right here.
Right.
And so it's really, really important.
And it takes practice.
Yeah. No, it's not going to happen overnight.
And when it talks about the servanthood part of it, is for the husband is head of the wife, as also Christ is head of the church, and he is the Savior of the body. Therefore, just as the church is subject to Christ, so let wives be their own husbands.
Be to their own husbands in
everything, right? But again, it's like the Bible says. Do unto others as you have them do unto you. I think this is
it's an equal partnership.
Very important for the husband.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? What do you want from your wife? You've got to give that to her.
So those are just a few of the key traits on a healthy home leader. But now we want to talk about on some practical ways that you can lead in your home. Because I think this is, it's great that we know all this stuff, but now we got to put it in action.
Yeah.
So what do we do? So one of the things that's very important to do, I think, is we have to set the tone emotionally and spiritually each day. So what might that look like? It can be practices that you do each morning, whether it's prayer, Bible, devotional reading, creating a gratitude list. All of these things are so valuable when it comes to creating an emotional tone within the home.
And you and I both do a lot of that, especially in the morning time.
Worship music is another one that comes to mind. Yeah.
You and I both in the mornings early. We ebb and flow. We're not perfect, right? I mean, it's just that's life. But the Bible and devotional reading for both of us has been very important.
Yeah,
right?
it definitely helps.
And prayer, of course.
Yeah, it definitely helps set the tone for the day and creates balance throughout the day.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
the other one that I love too is establishing family routines or rituals.
Yeah.
And this is something I grew up with, and I didn't realize the value of it until we had our own kids. And even when we had our own kids, I didn't really see the value of it till after our kids were gone. And that's family meals. I mean, sitting around the table for your meals. I mean, a lot of times people will sit at the couch or they'll have the TV going. I mean, our TV might be going, but we always sat down at the table and had meals together. And that's a great opportunity to discuss how your day went.
Right.
You know, what was your favorite part of the day? You know,
what did you struggle with?
Yeah,
Can
things
mom
like
and
that.
dad help you?
Yeah.
Right? Or
No.
how can I help you, Kathy?
Yeah, no, definitely. It's something that is really, really important when
You know,
it comes to that.
And on that, even like we were real involved with our children's sports when they were growing up. So oftentimes we were on our way home at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, stop for fast food, but we still would get home and sit down at the table and we'd all eat before we threw the kids in the pool to wipe to take a bath.
To take a bath. That's exactly it.
Right.
You know, and the other thing that's really good about a family routine is just regular check-ins. You know, checking in with your spouse in the middle of the day. Check in with your kids individually. You know, sometimes kids need one-on-one, and sometimes they don't feel like they can have a one-on-one conversation when their siblings are sitting around the table. So being able to do regular check-ins with your kids as individuals and let them open up individually as well.
And here's what I'm going to say about those check-ins. It's very important that when you do those check-ins, you give your spouse or your children 100% of your attention.
Yeah.
Put your phone away. Be prepared when you do a check-in to sit there, especially if they need to talk with you. Yeah. Do not make them feel like you're rushed, that they're not important.
No, make the time.
You have to make the time. So
yeah,
be prepared for that.
Yeah. And then another thing that you can establish as a family is prayer and devotional time. Right. I mean, there are families, unfortunately, our kids were not around when we got back to church, so we didn't get to show that example. But I love when I follow some friends on social media and stuff, and I see their 2 and 3 year old. There was one today where he's, I think, 3, and Mama's reading her Bible, and she's got her highlighter out, and he's sitting there reading his little devotional book, and he's just underlining words. He doesn't even read yet, but he's underlining the words. So our children are following our lead.
And then our grandson, our daughter's son, right?
Oh, yeah.
He likes to pray at dinner time.
Yeah. So encourage them, you know, and as part of those family routines. So it's beautiful.
And like even with our son and daughter-in-law, right? I mean, they believe in God. They're great kids, and we go over there, and they usually have me pray. Like especially we have like Thanksgiving, or they usually have me pray before the meal.
Yeah. Right? So again, setting that routine to lead and to lead well.
I'm going to be honest with you. Kathy is really good with all of our grandkids about this. Yeah. No, better than I am. But
well, I think it's because I realized that we didn't get that opportunity with our own children. Right. So why not help our grandchildren out? So the other thing that's a practical way to lead in the home is handling conflicts with respect and listening. You know, that sometimes it's hard. And if you have grown up in a home or have been in a relationship where you didn't do that from the beginning, it's hard to correct, but it can be corrected. But, you know, handling conflicts with respect and listening is key to leading in a home because, again, we're setting an example of how we can overcome these difficult situations.
And you know what? Several of our clients, I'm going to be honest with you, they've seen the switch in their children because of their growth, right? And they've said, our children are really, you know, they're kids. They're going to be kids.
They're responding differently.
But they're responding in a much better, more loving, caring way.
Yeah, right? Yeah, definitely.
Because of the switch they see.
Right. And then, you know, talking about our kids is teaching kids or modeling problem solving and boundaries.
Right.
You know, that's something that a lot of us as adults didn't learn. Right. Doesn't mean we can't learn it now, and we can't lead our children with that as well, because we have to be able to, again, lead by example. I can't keep saying that enough.
Well, in fact, many of us adult parents had our boundaries going right out the water as kids growing up. So again, that was then, right? Today's a different day. So it's like, okay, Now I got to learn how to set boundaries for myself so I can help my children start setting boundaries for them.
Right.
So, you can teach old dogs new
Exactly.
tricks.
You've been learning very well, old dog. Love you, honey. And then another practical way to lead well in the home is making room for both voices in the marriage to be heard. We talk about this a lot with our clients. We have to be able to listen with an open mind and a willingness to hear each other out.
Right.
We don't always have to like what we hear the other person saying, but we have to be willing to hear them. And we want to listen with curiosity. You've talked about this, so that we can ask curious questions, because sometimes we need clarity. And the best way to do is, we can't ask for clarity if we're not listening and we're not open-minded.
And what happens with 9 out of 10 couples, 9 out of 10 people, right, is somebody starts talking, and by the time the first or second sentence is done, the person listening is already developing a comeback, therefore not hearing another word that person is saying.
Right.
Wah, 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 wah. And we want to listen to understand how that other person is feeling or what they're saying. Right?
Yeah, and if you want to be that leader in the home, this is something that's got to be implemented in both sides of a relationship.
It never, we do this with our clients, never ever tell your partner, spouse, or your children, "Oh, you shouldn't feel that way. You need to feel that. You need to do this. Blah blah." You don't know that. That's wrong.
Right.
Tell them they shouldn't feel this way.
Right. So we want to make sure we're making room for both voices
Let
to
them
be
have
heard.
their
We don't have to agree.
No,
we might have a different perspective, and that's perfectly okay.
Let their feelings and emotions come out and help them through them, help them understand them.
And
that's
that
all
helps,
they are.
That helps with the conflict resolution as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So then, as we kind of wind up here, we're going to talk about some of the challenges in home leadership, because it can be challenging, and it can be really, boss. It can be really challenging when you're trying to implement new things too.
Right.
And so, balancing leadership between spouses, we have to be able to honor what each spouse brings to the home, because we all have gifts, and they're going to be different. And I know we've talked about this, about what my role is in leading the home, and what your role is in leading the home. And I know that you say all the time that, however you decorate, that's up to you, and you make our house is a home.
Yeah. I don't even question it anymore, because Cathy's done such a marvelous job. Sometimes she'll ask me for my feedback, and I'll give it to her, but
as long as it has nothing to do with colors, because that's a problem.
That's a problem. Right? But the thing of it is that I don't even question it anymore. I mean, every month we have a life group, and she does a phenomenal job getting the house ready for the theme of that life. I mean, it's great. And that's what she loves to do. Yeah. And then, but I do help around the house.
Yes.
Right. I do. It's like we say, we have to help.
It's balancing each other's roles, and so that's what's important. Right. And it's a good leadership. Another challenge sometimes is leading when your partner struggles with mental health and addiction. We've been through that as well. Sometimes it is difficult, because now you feel like you're taking on a role that you didn't always lead with.
Right.
But that's why it's really important. I think something just popped into my mind. That's why it's really important to invest in, if you've got a husband, for example, that is leading in the home, and the husband falls ill, or mental health or addiction takes over, it's important as a spouse and as a wife to observe how he's been leading all the time. Don't just take it for granted that he's done it a certain way. Really invest in his leadership. Mm-hmm. Acknowledge what he's done, so that if you get put in a situation where you have to step up in that leadership role, especially if you have children in the home, mm-hmm. you're able to do that, so that there's not so much, there's not a tormented storm brewing in the home.
Right.
Make it as smooth of a transition as necessary. And the way you can do that is by investing in what your spouse is doing to lead your home. Be aware.
On this particular thing, struggles with mental health or addiction, right? Cathy has done a phenomenal job learning, and it took her a while.
Yeah.
So she can read me pretty well, right? And for the most part, I'd say I'm 95% over all the mental health stuff, but I still have these kind of down moments, and Cathy picks them up and she'll say, "Hey, are you okay today? I notice I feel like I'm losing you," or she'll just ask the question. And then in the past, if I said, "Well, I'm struggling," blah blah, she would then go into fix it mode, and that would piss me off. Right?
Can't do that very well.
But what she has learned to do is say, "Okay, I'm here for you," and she'll ask me, "Can I do anything for you?" And sometimes it's like, just be there for me and love me. But for the most part, it's like, I'll get through it.
Yeah.
But she asked me, "What can I do to help you?"
Just be supportive.
Instead of telling me what I need to do.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Another challenge that might come up too is the fear of failing or repeating the patterns within your own family of origin. Yeah. Remember, not all of us grew up with a perfect home. I don't think there is such thing. Yeah. But we don't have to always do what we saw. We can make the choices to be better, and we can lead better. Like you say, the fork in the road. Are you going to go the same old way you're used to going, or are you going to go the other direction? So
there's a true thing, and it's true, and it's alive, called generational curses. Mm-hmm. And I was part of that generational line, the line of generational curses in my family. And that fork in the road came for me, and it's like, okay, I got to make a choice. Yeah. Am I going to continue this generational curse and alcoholism and bad behavior and anger and stuff that I grew up with? Or am I going to put an end to it? Am I going to stop it? Make that change. Am I going to make that change? As hard as it is, I made the choice. I'm done with this. I don't want my children to grow up, having to fight this generational curse like I had to fight it for the majority of my life, right? No, that's good. So I see my children now with their children. I mean, it's completely different than the way I grew up. Mm-hmm. And again, even through my addiction, even through our dark times, our kids, they learned a lot. They learned, right? Yeah. And we tend to learn what we don't want to do in those situations, and that's the choice you make, is to do different. And I think I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I think one of the biggest things our children watch is they watch mom and dad really fight. They watch dad literally fight for his life when it comes to the addiction. Mm-hmm. Fight through that addiction and fight to get, after the mistake I made. Right. Fight to make our marriage better, to earn my trust back with Kathy, to love her unconditionally. Yeah, absolutely. They watched us fight, and that gives them hope for the future. Yeah. They'll fight. My daughter, all my kids, this is a fighter, man. Yeah. She's learned from her dad. And it's fighting in a good way. Yeah, it's good. And one of the things, that I think is important when there's challenges in home leadership is we've got to be encouraging. Yes. We've got to remember that, a lot of times we're doing things different than what we grew up in. And so we have to remember it's progress over perfection. We're not going to do it perfectly every time. We're going to make mistakes. But you know what? Just don't keep making the same mistake over and over again. Get creative. Get creative, right? But we've got to remember that this is new. It's a new behavior. It's new action. Our kids are going to struggle. We're going to struggle. But keep encouraging along the way. And it's really important that you stress to your children progress over perfection, right? We don't want our children growing up to be perfectionists for the rest of their life, because that can be a very, very bad thing for them to do. We want them to do the best they can do in life. But this is a subject for a whole other podcast, which I think we're going to do in the near future anyway. So, but just make sure. Progress over perfection. They're kids. They're learning. Right. And I think what's important to remember is that in the struggles is where the growth happens. Yeah, right. So we've got to remember that. But especially, Kathy needs me to understand that. But our children really need us to be there for them when they make a mistake. Pick them up and get them in the right direction. Don't kick them when they're down. Yeah. Yeah. And then, just one thing we have to really remember in all of this is that leadership can be learned. Yeah. And it can grow at any stage of life. So if you are, been married for several years and you're like, oh, well, we've got this habit and this is just our routine, I'll challenge you, are you okay with that? And if not, it's okay. You can learn to do something different. Yeah. Yeah. If it's if you've got areas of struggle, you can make change. It can be done at any life. I was 49 when I got into recovery. Yeah. So, it's like you got to be open-minded. You got to be willing. That's all it takes. And it just takes time, right? Yeah. It takes a lot. What it does do is it takes a ton of courage. Yeah. Right? I think both of us, and Kathy brought it up first one day. I'm afraid of who I'm going to be. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'm going to like that person. Yeah. And then I even went through that same phase. Am I going to like the new Randy?
Yeah, no, it's so subtle. So,
yeah.
so as we kind of wind this down, I'm going to challenge the listeners to some
Yes.
reflection questions here. And this is your journal prompting opportunity. So here's a couple things to ponder. Who led in your home growing up? And how did they shape your view of leadership? Journal on that one. Your other question can be, how are you currently leading in your home? That's where you got to get honest with yourself. And then the final question that you can journal with is, what's one small way you can show a servant leadership this week? So use those 3 questions to reflect and to journal about throughout the week.
And one thing that Cathy and I always stress on when we're doing this journaling, don't chicken scratch.
No, dig deep.
Dig deep. Get in there and be honest with yourself.
It's between you, God, and your journal.
That's
so
it.
Let's get it out.
Mm-hmm.
And then our call to action this week,
right.
we've implemented this, and we really love this, is that we have these guides and these little worksheets that we offer to you at the end of each of these podcasts. And so this week we have the Healthy Home Leadership Guide. And if that is something that you are interested in, please email us at healandrestorecounseling@gmail.com. We will email you a copy of that Healthy Home Leadership Guide. It's got some prompting questions. You can kind of do an evaluation, see where you're doing well, maybe see where you need to make some improvements. So it's really important. Also want to invite our listeners, if you haven't already subscribed to us, please subscribe to us both on YouTube, TikTok, and follow us on all of our social medias platforms.
Instagram
and Facebook. And make sure you share this episode. You never know who this might help. So I was going to say, share it with 3 people this week. If you found this helpful, and even if you didn't find it helpful, somebody else might, share it with 3 people this week. Because remember, leadership in your home isn't about having all the answers. God knows we never did. It's about showing up. It's about loving well and choosing to lead with intention each day. Yep. So be intentional about your leading. So as we close this out, before we get into our little house cleaning, I just want to remind you that a healthy home starts with a courageous leadership, because the way you lead shapes the love, safety, and legacy you leave behind. So let's keep building strong homes together. Beautiful. I love that.
Very well said.
Yeah. So what is our house cleaning that we want to talk about today?
Well, we'd like to invite you to check out our books on Amazon. They're also on, there's a link to them also on our website, right? The healandrestorecounseling.com, right? We have the Healing the Wounded Child Within, sharing healing from the pain of abuse. We have How to Heal and Restore Your Marriage. It's a 4-step process to restore the most important relationship. Now, I hear, Randy, our relationships just fine, but all of our relationships, we have to be open-minded. Always use little things to help us grow further in our relationship.
We all need a little help from our friends.
Yeah. And then we got Renewing Bonds, 7 Steps to Restoring Your Relationship. Hearts Reunited, Steps to Restore Love and Intimacy. Right? And then I have the 30-Day Devotional to Wholeness. Right? And we just released this a couple of weeks ago, my newest book called The Healing Path, a Survivor's Guide to Healing from Abuse. Yeah. All these books can be found on Amazon or at our website. They are available in multiple different platforms, or I don't know what you
paperback,
call it. Kindle, and Audible. Right? And we're still offering our 1-hour no-cost discovery session. Right. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this is really an important thing that we have found that's been very, very helpful as coaches, relationship coaches, individual coaches, addiction, whatever that is. We offer a 1-hour, no-cost to you discovery session. We want to hear from you. We want to hear where your struggles are, what you need help with. And then we'll share a little bit about ourselves. Now, if it's one-on-one necessary, it could either be myself or Randy, either one of us at that point. If it's a man, it's typically Randy. If it's a woman, it'll be me. And we want to just get to know you, because we found this is our best opportunity to be able to build trust before you begin that whole journey on healing.
Exactly.
So, and we really build relationships before we start digging into the stuff. So that's what's important.
Yeah, it's real important. We want to make sure that, we're going to meet your needs. That's of our ability.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So,
absolutely. Oh, this was a good one, honey. Good conversation. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Another one.
Yeah, another beautiful opportunity.
So remember this: if nobody tells you they everybody today. Randy does.
Cathy does.
More importantly, God does. Be bless everybody. Have an absolutely fabulous week.
Have a great week.